Hi, this is Tali Berman, and last week I sent an email out asking my community what is it that you would like to learn more about? What is it that you'd like help with so I can gear my videos to really, in a very targeted way, answer the questions that you have. So I got a great question from a mom from California, which was, how can I help my child with his self-esteem? Now, I love this question, and I'm really excited to talk about it today. And actually, I'm going to do this in two parts. I'm going to do part 1 video and part 2 video because there's so much I have to say about this topic. And I think this is really an important topic because ultimately, what do you want for your child more than for him to feel good about himself? First of all, just for the own quality of his life, to have a good sense of self, to have a positive sense of self, to recognize his meaningful contribution to the world around him. But also, when your child has more self-esteem, when he has a good sense of, positive sense of self, he's also in a better position to learn all the skills, the actual fundamental skills you want him to learn, because he's in a positive state of mind and has the motivation and the desire to actually grow. So I'm really glad to hear that was a question that was asked. And if this is not something that you're focusing on with your child, I really want to encourage you, number one, to make your child's self-esteem and sense of self a real priority focus. So I have 8 ways to help your child cultivate a positive sense of self and self-esteem, and I'm going to do half of them today and half of them next week in my next video blog. So let's start with number 1. Number 1 is, just checking my list here, change your goal. So here's what I mean. Oftentimes parents will come to me and say, how do I help my child be more like other kids? How do I close the gap between where my child is and where other children are? And I understand this question, and I'm sure it's a question many of you have. What I want to encourage you to do, however, and it might seem subtle, but actually it's a very powerful shift, is instead of asking, how can I help my child be more like other children, is to ask and to have a different question, to have a different goal. The goal being, how can I help my child more fully bring his unique self to the world around him? Right? It's actually a very different question. And the reason why it's important is because when you are being led by the question, how can I make my kid more like other kids? How can I close the gap and help him scoot up to be more like others? That's going to influence everything you do and the way that you do it. And this kind of judgment that my child isn't going to be complete or whole or good enough until he's more like others will be a big part of everything you do with your child, and without question, your child will sense that and feel that. However, if you ask a different question, what can I do? How can I support my child and inspire my child to bring his unique self to the world around him? That question is a totally different question. It's about really accessing your child, not trying to get him to be like anybody else, but trying to help him be fully who he is. And so it's not about trying to put him in environments that other kids are in or gain skills or be a part of activities that other kids like, but helping him do what he likes, what he enjoys, where he can thrive. And that brings me to my next one. But I think that's a really important question to really lead from. And I think that will help determine the different things you do and how you do them. So the first one is change your goal, change your question. The second one is help your child to develop his strengths and his passions. So I want to tell a quick story here about a mom who told me that her child loved the songs in the synagogue service on Saturday mornings. He would go to synagogue and they would sing these songs and he loved them. And one of the therapists with the best intentions in the world really encouraged them to stop taking him to synagogue because these songs were distracting him from all the other learning that they were trying to do with him at school. And what she'd said to me was that basically his light started to dim. He just kind of became more depressive, just didn't seem inspired or motivated to do much of anything. And I said to her, so let's rethink this. I really want to be a big advocate to get him back to synagogue. He loves those songs, and those songs will help light him up. That's his passion. And from there, you can teach him 1,000 different things. And that's exactly what happened. She took him back to synagogue. He really was so excited, loves these songs. From that love of songs, he learned to play the piano. From that love of piano, he learned to be a community leader. He led an autism fundraiser in their own home, in their own living room, playing music for a group of people. So imagine the kind of self-esteem that builds for a child. So instead of trying to put aside, ignore, suppress your child's strengths and passions, identify them and cultivate them. Nothing will give your child a better sense of self than validating what he loves and what's important to him and what he's good at. So number 2 is develop your child's strengths and passions. Number 3 is, if possible, find a group where there's other people who have the same passion and interest as your child. So if he loves comics, if he loves drawing, if he loves music, if he loves painting, if you can find a group, a class, where other people love those same things, then not only does he recognize that his desires, his passions are validated, but he has a sense of belonging. There are other people who loves what he loves. That's even more validating. He now becomes part of a community of shared interests. So number 1 is to really identify his passion and his strength, and then the other one is to really find a group of people, if possible, an activity that brings people together with a common interest as your special child. Now the 4th one is, I'm going to wrap this one here up at number 4 and give you the rest in the next time, is develop independence. So find the places where you can help your child become more independent. That might be him getting himself dressed in the morning. That might be him preparing his own food. That might be anything that he can do for himself. I know my son told me very directly, he's like, Ima, which is mom in Hebrew, I hate it when we're baking together and I'm mixing something and you say, hey, great job mixing, and then you take the bowl and then you mix it some more. He recognized that I'm totally undermining what he was doing and not allowing him to be fully independent. So find the places where you might hover, you might come in and button his shirt for him or adjust his pants or, spread the food, the spread on the sandwich the way you want it to be done. And instead, allow your child to be totally and truly and sincerely independent in one selective activity. And if you can find one activity like that every day where your child can be independent, that will make a big impact on his self-esteem. All right, so I've given you 4 strategies today of how you can help your child develop more self-esteem, your child with autism, and I will do part 2 and give you 4 more strategies. But I'd love to hear from you. What is something you're learning from today? What is something you can take away from today's video to help your child develop more self-esteem? If you're watching this video anywhere other than my blog, hop on over to www.taliberman.com. That's where the conversation happens, and let me know what you can do to help your child develop more self-esteem. Take care and have a great day.